Hi, welcome back. Michael, how does your proposal different from Chris Patton's proposal in 1995?
That's a really good question because, I've had several people already say, hey, you're increasing the number of voters in the FCs. Isn't that the old Patton proposal? And I tell them, well, actually, it's quite different. Okay. In 2012, we've identified all of these new professionals that were left out. They're already registered with the government, certified. They have to have some sort of relationship with the government in order to practice their living. This is very different in the first case from the Patton plan, because Patton just basically put a bunch of people, many of whom were not professionals, okay, who had no real distinctive relationship with the government, into the FCs as much as he could. So the 2012 FC model that we have is very different from Patton that way. We're looking at new professionals, we're looking at people who are trustees and members of business, boards of business, entirely different, because he didn't do that. In 2016, the idea of having everybody who's working for a company vote according to the nature of the company, again, that's very different from the Patton plan. Patton had the idea of trying to lump all these people who are more or less alike, okay, into these functional constituencies, whether or not they had anything to do with the government, whether or not they had anything really to do with each other, as far as that's concerned. What we're trying to do is to keep the distinctions among these functional constituencies there. So, for example, if you have an education FC vote like we have now, all the people in 2016 who work for education-related institutions would vote. That keeps the distinction of an education sector vote from every other type of vote, okay? And all these people vote together in the basis of the interest of the place they work. Again, very different from the Patton plan. The idea here is to make those steps forward from where we are now, where it's a very unfair, narrow, restricted system, to a broader system, is to do it, though, in a way to where there is a logical retaining of the character of each FC. We're not just lumping people together. We're trying to keep them together, because what we found in our research is that as long as there is a distinction in the FC seats from all the other FC seats and GC seats, there's going to be pressure to erase those distinctions. Okay, that's the crucial thing.
So do you think your proposal is moving orderly and gradually?
Yeah, that's interesting too, because everybody thought that the best way to go would be to take the 30 seats and cut the legs off and then cut the arms off and then cut the head off, okay? Which doesn't seem very gradual and orderly when you think about it. Our idea is kind of like you feed the FCs until they get so big they kind of, at the end, just it's like the expanding universe. There's a theory of the expanding universe, that the universe is expanding to the point to where eventually, well, there won't be one. Okay, and so we have the same idea. You just kind of expand the FCs until there's really no difference between the FC seats and the GC seats. About the same number of voters. Okay, the only distinction is it's all the education people voting for the one education seat, but really there are many different kinds of people. So they're so much like the GC seats, you may as well make them GC seats. And so that seems the gradual and orderly way of doing it.
Yeah. So do you think Beijing would consider your proposal?
Well, I think everybody who looks at the Hong Kong system, they can tell you that the real issue is not the one country, two systems. People aren't arguing about one country, two systems, all right? But it's really clear that the Hong Kong system, there's something wrong with that, all right? There's something wrong with the system. Hong Kong has the highest proportion of demonstrations and demonstrators in the world. I mean, we have turnouts that, proportionately speaking, for example, in 2003 and 2004, when we had 500,000 people demonstrating, that would be equal to 100 million people demonstrating in China mainland, or equal to 20 million Americans demonstrating. Now that's never happened, okay? Just never happened. And that's a very dangerous thing in many ways if you're concerned about stability, okay? And Beijing is concerned about stability. The best way forward to solve this problem is to solve this problem. And Beijing's already decided that we have a timetable to solve the problem. What people are trying to do is to figure out how can we solve the problem. And what this report does is go into some initial research on new ideas about how to solve the problem. Now we're going to be doing follow-up research. We're already doing some now with some of those roughly 1 out of 5 people who are these new professionals, new certified people, and the current FC voters. So we're researching that in much more detail. And then we'll do some things further on. But right now what we're trying to do is to get everybody to kind of step back a little bit, rethink some of these problems, get some fresh perspective on it, and see if we can work our way through and make sure we don't fail like we did in 2005 in constitutional reform, because it's absolutely critical that we solve this problem of unfairness, which is really eating away at the system, and the thing that so many people in Hong Kong feel like nobody really knows about their problems, cares about their problems. No one is really a representative working on their problems. This is really eroding not just the legitimacy of government, but the unfairness issue is eroding the ability, for example, of business to get an agreement that people will support. So you look at developers in Hong Kong now, say it takes more than 10 years. They get a proposal to government, they get some approval, then they get popular revolt against it, it falls apart, they have to go back to the drawing board and redo it. That's because of that feeling of unfairness. We've got to solve that for everybody to be better off. Pro-Beijing people, pro-business people, professionals, common people on the street, everybody. We've got to solve this problem.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And that's all the time we have. Thank you.